People make it look so easy because you're never failing if you're trying. Smile. I've actually done a drawing. That'll be fine. Sup Rand'ems. My name's Emma and I'm back with another Health Quest video. Today's video is going to be about the food pyramid and about salt. Disclaimers, I'm not a dietitian, a doctor, a nutritionist, or anything like that. I'm just an average person wanting to know this information, and I thought while I find it all out from different sources, I would share that information with you at the same time. All of the references and sources that I find will be linked in the description of each video, so if you're interested in looking into it further or listening to the information directly from the source, you're more than welcome to go and do that. The reason that I've decided to put these two topics together is because the food pyramid, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail shortly, also includes a lot of information about salt and sugar, but I want to put sugar in an entirely different video as it is, so I decided to put salt with the food pyramid. Anyway, let's get into it. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I vaguely remember being taught through school about the food pyramid, and I think it would have been in like cooking classes in high school, and that's when we started learning about like the food pyramid. And the only thing that I really remembered about it was that, you know, you've got veggies at the bottom, meat in the middle, and then like dairy at the top. That's kind of all I remember about it, to be honest. Mind you, I never really took that into any way of eating. When you're a kid, you kind of just eat what you're given or what you're told to eat, so it was never anything that I really took interest in or paid much attention to. I just knew that it existed. And I guess thinking about it now, like that part still makes sense. You want to try and have a lot of vegetables in your diet and meat and try and keep the fats to a minimum, or do you? So I guess the main thing I wanted to know was, is the food pyramid valid? Should it be something that we need to follow or that we should be following? So I thought I would look into it with you, so let's look into it. The food pyramid was brought into America in the 20th century, and when they brought it in, it was looked to as the standard for eating. When it was first created by health professionals, it then had to go through a lot of different people to get signed off and looked at, so it went for all of these different checks by all of these people, and those people were from different industries and different wholesalers and things like that, like, you know, the sugar industry and the meat industry, dairy industry, that sort of thing. And when it actually returned to the original creators of the food pyramid, it had changed hugely, massively changed the way that it was from the very beginning. And I guess the reason for that, from what I understand, is because those wholesalers or the industries didn't like the way that their food was portrayed through the food pyramid. So they said, no, you need to change this, change that. And then of course, when it got back, it wasn't true to the actual information that these health professionals had created in the first place. So therefore, at this point, it's not correct, even before it's been produced for the public to see, but yet it still gets produced and everybody still starts using this as their main standard for eating food. In 1995 is when the food pyramid was changed, and they were reviewing whether sugar and salt should be on the pyramid as well, and saying that we should sort of eat both of those things in proportion. Eat them, what's the word I'm looking for? Reduce the amount of salt and sugar that we should be eating. And this was because the obesity rate was increasing in America. You'll notice that the salt warning is on the food pyramid, or information about salt, trying to not have too much salt in your diet, but there says nothing about sugar. And again, that is because the industry didn't like the way that it made them look, so it didn't get approved to go into the food pyramid. So we now think that salt is the devil and that we shouldn't be having any of it. We need to remove it from our diets. There's all of these salt reduced things, and again, I know that I've said it, that I'm not a health professional, I'm not a doctor or a dietitian, I'm nothing like that. So obviously there's still people that need to remove salt from their diet. This is just like for the average person. So of course, if you've been told you need to have salt, have salt. If you don't need to, don't. This is just general information, remember that. But the reason that everybody thinks that salt is so bad probably comes from the food pyramid, and the fact that it says no, don't consume as much salt as you're consuming. The whole pyramid practically says that carbs are good and fat is bad. Depending on the advice you get and where you get it from, people do still think that that is correct. But I guess what I'm trying to do is dig into it a bit deeper, find out if that actually is the case or whether it's the case for some people, not others, which I think is sort of where it's going. But for general people, normal people, the general population, what should we be eating? I just want to understand what I'm putting in my body. So low fat and fat-free products actually came about because of the food pyramid. The low fat and fat-free products that you'll find, you'll also notice if you have a look at them that they have more sugar and more sweeteners because they need to taste good somehow. And by doing that, they're adding more carbs in, even though there's less fat, to create a better taste. A lot of people don't know the difference between complex carbs and simple carbs, and I'll admit I definitely didn't know the difference before I started looking into it myself. There's also a difference between good fats and bad fats, which I'm yet to learn about, and I'm going to look into more in future videos as well. The pyramid was keeping it too simple, and therefore everyone started to eat the wrong foods and the obesity rate grew really fast. So pretty much in conclusion, the food pyramid is outdated, oversimplified, and not what we should be following for a standard of eating. One of the references that I found said that it is an oversimplified one-size-fits-all structure. That's where we went wrong. And I agree with that. I think the information on there may be correct to a certain point, but it is oversimplified and not everybody knows everything about food. Most people don't understand about food. I definitely don't, and that's why I'm doing this series, like I said. Yeah, in regards to the food pyramid, it's not something that I would recommend following. Yeah. Let's move on to salt. Is it really that bad? So I don't know about you, but pretty much with salt, I've always thought that I need to avoid it. It's something that you always get taught: avoid salt, reduce salt, everything needs to be low salt, low sodium. And I guess I always related that back to high blood pressure because that's what you get told. Salt causes heart problems. That's what I've always lived by. And now I'm going to look into it a bit further because that's what this series is all about. So why should we be avoiding salt if that's what we're told to do? And should we actually be avoiding it, or do we need it in our diet? So from what I've been investigating is that really high salt intake, high salt intake, can cause heart disease, stomach disease, and high blood pressure. So salt and sodium are different things, which I think I knew but never really realized, if that makes sense. So salt is made up of 40% sodium. So they are different. Sodium is the mineral within salt, I guess. I'm pretty sure that's right. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that's right. And our body does actually require salt to function properly. Like, we do require sodium in our diet. It's just how much is the debate. So at the moment, 75% of our diets, so 75% of the sodium in our diet comes from processed foods, which a lot of it would be hidden sodium as well. Like, you wouldn't realize that it was there unless you check the labels. So salt pulls water into our blood vessels, which then makes our body pump the blood, like pumping the blood in our body a lot harder, which is what causes our high blood pressure. That's the science behind it anyway. But apparently, from what I've been looking into, there's no hard evidence to say that salt is the cause of high blood pressure or hypertension. It is a pretty good theory and the science sort of makes sense, but there's no actual evidence. There is causation for stomach cancer, so there is actually proof that high salt intake could be causing stomach cancer, so that is definitely a real thing. There were also studies done for low salt intake and how that could affect your body, and it also has a very unhealthy effect, the same way that an extremely high salt intake does have a bad effect on your body as well. Studies show that vegans overall have a lower blood pressure rate, and one of the reasons could be because they don't intake any animal products, and animal products tend to be pumped full of salt and sodium, mostly for like preservation reasons. But yeah, the less animal products you intake, the less salt that you're going to be intaking as well, which I thought was interesting. So should we actually be eating salt, and how much should we be eating? The recommended intake for salt for adults and children over the age of 11 is no more than 6 grams, and that's a level tablespoon. That is also the equivalent to 2.4 grams or 2,400 milligrams of sodium. Something else that I learned, which was interesting, is that mammals will actually walk miles and miles to find some salt, and that's because their bodies do require salt to function. It's part of the way that our cells work, our cell makeup. And we are also mammals, so there is a certain amount of sodium that we do need in our diet. If you're craving salt, it's probably because your body needs it, so maybe you should have some salt. There are some salts like pink salt that do have minerals in them along with sodium that could potentially have health benefits, but in saying that, don't smash a food full of pink salt just because it's healthier. It still contains a lot of sodium, so of course just have it in moderation like everything else. In saying that, there are some salts that are better for you than other salts. Just like everything, the less processed, the better. There's iodized salt and kosher salt, or kosher, I'm not sure how to say that, kosher salt, and they are heavily processed, so try and avoid those if you do want to have salt in your diet. You're better off having sea salt or pink salt, pink Himalayan salt. They are whole foods and are a lot better for you in that way, but they are still sodium and they're still salt, so again, be careful of your intake. Another interesting fact that I found out is when our body removes salt, it also removes calcium. So if you've watched my previous video about calcium, you know that our body does need a good balance of calcium. So the more salt that you're putting into your diet, the more calcium you could be losing. So that might be something that you need to watch out for as well. In conclusion, I would probably say that it is important in your diet in balance, just like everything else. It's good in moderation. Our body does need it, and we just need to be conscious of the food that we're putting into our body so that we're not overdoing it with processed foods that we don't realize are salty. You could add salt into your, you could add other flavors into your food instead of salt, like herbs and spices, and maybe even garlic or lemon. That's probably something that I would suggest instead of salt, but I think you still need salt in your diet. So to wrap up this whole video, my conclusion for the food pyramid is don't follow it. It's not up to date anymore. It's oversimplified. Some of the information might be correct, but I don't think it should be something that we follow anymore. It may have been relevant at one point, but I still don't even think that's true. And in regards to salt, don't overdo it, don't underdo it. In moderation. I see that seems to be the current, or just like the accurate information with all of these videos at the moment, is that everything is good in moderation and with balance. So I suppose that goes for salt as well. And yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and that the information was interesting to you. The next video topic that I'm going to be talking about will be the keto diet, a ketogenic diet, and fasting, intermittent fasting, and how those two dieting options could benefit you if they're healthy. Are they healthy? Are they even any good for you? That sort of stuff. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please press like if you've liked the video and subscribe if you love me. But yeah, bye.